So I just finished reading this book, Decisive: How to Make Better Choices in Life and Work. Picked up some good insights I wanted to pass along in this video. So there's basically 4 principles they talk about in this book about how to make better choices, and a process to follow. So the first part of it is to widen your options, and that means to avoid a narrow frame. So often in our decisions we get caught up in a binary choice, a yes or no, a whether or not decision, when really whenever that kind of choice comes up, we should question that and see it as a warning that we have too narrow of a focus. So one way to do this is to consider opportunity costs. Consider third options. Look for something that's this and that instead of this or that. Working on multiple projects at once or pursuing multiple avenues. A great example of this, if you're doing online products or apps, is design. There's websites where you can basically get designers to submit options for you, so you have multiple designs to choose between, and that can make your choice a lot easier, because instead of just seeing one logo and saying, is this good or not, do I want this or not, now you've got 5, and it's a lot easier to make that choice. So the next thing is to reality test your assumptions. So consider the opposite thing. So that helps us to avoid what's called confirmation bias, which is basically when we have a decision to make and we're leaning towards one way. We as humans, we just tend to gather evidence and information that supports our point of view, rather than actually exploring the other legitimate options and exploring things that contradict our point of view. So we got to zoom out. A good way to do this is to find statistics, find what generally happens in this scenario, what's the average outcome for the situation that I'm in. But at the same time, get perspective, get an inside look from someone who has gone through it, and then weigh that against the general statistics and kind of the general way that things would normally unfold, not assuming that you're special or that you can predict the future. And the best way to do this for entrepreneurs is to test before taking that leap. So we've all kind of heard of the lean startup idea, and that's testing your ideas with minimal risk before actually investing big money, big time, and taking that leap. We can't predict the future. We're pretty bad at it as people. So as an entrepreneur, you need to make small tests and see if your assumptions are right, see if your idea actually is going to work before jumping in. So the third principle is to attain distance, and that's just for overcoming short-term emotion. One cool idea they had in this book is called the 10-10-10 analysis. So it's to ask yourself, if I made this decision, how would I feel 10 minutes from now? How would I feel 10 months from now? How would I feel 10 years from now? And often when you compare the 10-minute emotion to the 10-month emotion to the 10-year emotion, it frames your decision. It makes it a lot easier. Something that you might be afraid to do right now, something that if you made the decision and did something, you might feel nervous and anxious 10 minutes from now, but 10 months from now you might be grateful. 10 years from now you'd be extremely grateful that you made that choice. So super helpful in making decisions there. And the other part is to honor your core priorities. So think of what your core priorities are in life, like family, time. Is it freedom of time, freedom of money? Friendships, and that helps you to kind of, again, zoom out from the short-term emotion of a situation. Are you going to take a job or not? Are you going to take that promotion even though it means spending less time with your family, traveling more, being more stressed at work, with the only upside being you get maybe a big raise, but in the short term your emotion is all about it's such an opportunity, there's so much more money, all this. But when you zoom out and look at your actual priorities, if they're to spend time with your family and build your relationships, and that's what really matters to you, you've got to make your decision based on that and not by your short-term emotion. And I think the best question to ask yourself in those situations is, what would I tell my best friend to do? If your best friend came to you with that exact problem, looking for advice, what advice would you give them? And normally when we're giving advice to other people, it's a lot easier to take the broad perspective, and because we don't have the short-term emotions attached to it, we can more easily see if something is aligned with someone's true priorities or not. So that's a great question to ask yourself. What would I tell my best friend to do? The last principle here is, when it comes to making decisions, is prepare to be wrong. So try to look into the future and not try to set a prediction of a specific event, but look at the broad spectrum. So what is the worst thing that can happen? What is the best thing that can happen? And try to prepare for both of those. Make sure you would be prepared for both of those scenarios when you're making a decision. And in the book, they also bring up something that's called setting a tripwire. So it's something that's kind of supposed to snap you awake and make you question your past decisions, once you start going down the road. So once you make a choice, let's say you want to start a business and you're not sure if it's going to work or not, but you want to test it. So setting a tripwire would be, I'm going to keep going in this business for 4 months, and then if I don't make X amount of money, if I don't generate $30,000 of revenue in the next few months, I'm going to step back and question, or I'm going to end this pursuit. So that's a good way to kind of not get stuck on autopilot and just keep doing something that's not working. Set some sort of tripwire that if this event happens, you're committed to taking a step back and looking at what's going on and deciding if you need to change course. So, good book, Decisive. I definitely took some notes on that one, wrote down those 4 principles, and I'm sure I'll be referring back to that in the future. So check it out, guys, or you don't. I pretty much gave the Cole's notes here. So hopefully that's helpful, guys. If you're watching this on YouTube, just check out my blog at jval.me. Thanks, guys.